Welcome back to another episode of Coats in Conversation. I'm your host, Kendrick Coats. Got the team back today. It's been a minute. This is actually thinking back on these Coats in Conversation episodes. Looking back, this is the 1 year anniversary of us starting this podcast, and it's been just amazing at the people who have commented, people who've reached out and said some of the messages that we talk about has helped them in specific ways. And so I thought it'd be a good episode just to get the team back and just this is going to be completely different than something that I've done. This is just kind of off the cuff type of podcast episode. So we'll see which direction it takes. I don't know where it's going to go, but we always have something good to talk about. And then even the two guests that we have today, they're always great. They always bring the energy. So I hope y'all enjoy this episode. Before we get started in this episode, if you have not gone out to listen to podcast episode number 13 with Gabriella Jackson, I'm telling you, her microphone was on fire that whole episode. Go out there, take a listen. I think y'all will enjoy just her presence, her voice, and her passion speaking about mental health and some of her experiences. I think it was a fantastic episode, and many people have reached out and they've been asking, "Hey, when's Gabriella going to be back on again?" So that may be something that we start looking in 2024 because I've got many episodes to put out for the rest of this year. We've got our guest Vince and Grant in the house, fellas. How you doing?
Good, good, good. What's up? Grant Jones, the entertainer, right here at your service. Good to be black. Dr. E's see, that's right there. It's been 1 year. Then obviously Dr. E, who couldn't join us right now, he definitely has an impact on me. So I was like, whoop, that just slipped out.
Good to see you, and it's good to have you back on again.
Yes, sir.
Vince, how you doing today?
What's happening, Dr. Sergeant Kendrick Coats? Happy to be in your presence today. It's also good to be black, you know. I enjoy,
Yeah.
Amen.
that as well. Yeah, happy to be back on the show, getting back to it. Shout out to all the past guests that were able to share their stories and their perspective on life and mental health. Coats and conversation, man. This is where it's at.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I remember when we started filming these episodes, I remember to the day where I went out to Best Buy and I'm like, man, I need a webcam. Okay, I need a microphone. I need a headset. I'm like doing all of these things and seeing just the transition of I didn't need a webcam because I have my iPhone. I didn't necessarily need a microphone, but I got one because I think Vince, you put me on the microphones, and then Grant, I think you have a nice microphone as well.
It
And
helps.
then just when you start thinking about podcasts and you see certain influencers in the industry, it's like, man, I want to be just like that person. Thinking that you have to go out and spend thousands of dollars to have this huge production system going to make a podcast episode work. You don't need those things. Just get started. That's the first thing I think ET, the hip hop preacher, talks about. Just get started. Just do it. Go for it. And so I think the two of you and Dr. E for coming along with me on this journey of just the evolution of Coats and conversation and just being vulnerable in many of the conversations that we have because we have hit on just so many of them. And I'm definitely looking forward to the conversation today. First things first, mental health check in. We're going to start over with Vince. Where's your mental health at today?
Woo, that's the wrong question to ask me today, sir. As always, I'm very optimistic. You know, I'm always excited about things that are going on. Grant and I are both going through a very transitional process with a new job currently. So there's that to adjust to. And this is, I think, the first time since I've been on the show, if I can recall correctly, that I haven't had a therapist. So I'm still in the process of looking for a therapist. My insurance got changed since the last one of the last times we talked, I guess. So yeah, I gotta switch up my whole plan. I need to find a new doctor, all that stuff. So just a couple of the struggles of life that are taking place. But like I said, otherwise usually positive and looking forward to seeing what's coming next.
Man, that even thinking back on just how difficult it can sometimes be to find a
Ooh,
therapist, and on top of that, finding a therapist that accepts a specific insurance.
there you
And
go.
so I could imagine just you being in your phase of just this transition you're going through and also trying to find a therapist. Man, it's not easy. And so when we start thinking about just mental health in general, it's sometimes difficult, one, finding a good therapist, and then secondly, finding a therapist that actually accepts our insurance.
That's right.
So hopefully, as you go through this transition period, that you're able to find one. Obviously, you have the boys here. We're always open to having these conversations and keeping each other accountable. I know you and Grant do a generally a weekly Tuesday phone call, so you check in with each other, and that's the importance of having a support system, because sometimes the professionals that we need in our life aren't always there, and so we have to have a support system to fall back on sometimes every now and then.
Yes, sir.
Grant Jones, where's your mental
Who
health at today? How you feeling?
who Grant Jones? Who Grant Jones? I'm still in a position where mental health is, it's up and down. You guys know how it goes. So I'm kind of with Vince. We're both in a new job where it's like they want the best of the best hosts, right? So very rigorous stuff that we have to go over and over and over and over. It's like we're in school again. So and me and him are like classmates and we're just going over notes constantly. Like, did you do this? Did you do that? What did they tell you to improve on? And then we're literally pushing each other. So iron sharpens iron, and I'm excited to be on this journey with my brother. And we are actually going to New York to do a little speaker training camp soon in a couple weeks. So that should be exciting, and that it just makes it more interesting, right? And you understand what you're doing. You get to understand, like, wow, this is what's really happening. I'm going through this, but hey, like look at all the stuff we're doing right now because we're going through it. I think someone said there's bliss and pain sometimes, right? And I think you guys being in the gym, you could understand like you gotta go through those painful experiences if you want to see growth. So we're treading along, we're doing what we can, and we're still alive. So any day you're still alive is a day that you're winning in my book. So
Man, you said you and Vince, it's almost like being in school. I could not imagine the two of y'all being in the same class at the same time. I swear, if I was a teacher, man, y'all would have to arrest me, because no, I could just imagine the two of y'all just in the back of the class, especially you, Grant, just be like,
right.
"Oh, teacher."
You know, it's funny you said that. When we first got hired on, they're like the percentage for getting hosts like is very like what they say, Vince, like 7%. So they're like only the best of the best. I'm like, you guys don't know. Me and Vince know each other. Like you guys just hired Keenan and Kel, and I'm sure you guys can tell which one's Kel and which one's Keenan. But it's so funny, man. Like the energy that we both bring, and they just know. They even put us in the same room. They're like, "You and Vince just seem like you would get along. We're gonna just go ahead and give you guys in the same room. Or you guys gonna be roommates." So they had no idea that we knew each other already. So it's just funny.
That's like when we had substitute teachers in grade school, bro. That was y'all when I was in grade school and they sent in the substitute teacher.
Over.
No,
Hey, I had the best night of sleep the day before that substitute was coming in, because I knew I was
Oh
cutting
man.
up. M-
no.
Man, no, no. But
Oh,
but appreciate y'all sharing. As far as where y'all are at mentally, I think as people who are always on the go and just kind of on forging our own lane to where we or want to go and to create our own success, it's sometimes very easy to forget where we are at mentally, and I'm very guilty of this. And so just to check in, and I just encourage the two of you or anybody who is listening to take the time, as my grandmother has said, and I think I've said it in past episodes, stop and smell the roses, because and I was literally talking to my brother maybe about an hour ago before I jumped on here, and I was we were just kind of talking, and I was like, what's the point of having all the money, all the accolades, all the attention and the notoriety if one is not mentally in tune with themselves and with their environment? Because there are so many times you see successful people that just kind of fall off the face of the earth because of their own mental health. So just be conscious, be aware of those around you, check in with those around you. Um, we're in this day and age where it's very easy to fall into unhealthy habits that kind of take us down a dark path. And so, yeah, and I think, a word of advice is if you start seeing loved ones around you or friends around you that just don't seem to have the same energy or positivity about life, check in with them. Just do it, just a simple check in. Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Great
So,
advice.
um, again, this episode, we're just it's off the cuff, and we were talking the other day. We might as well should have just recorded yesterday's podcast episode because I think that those are some of the best conversations that we have. But we're just kind of talking about life and where we've been over the past 2-3 years, and so um, going over to Vince, I'm just curious to know what the past 2 years has looked like for you. And
Hmm.
specifically, what have you learned about yourself in these past 2 years? Because obviously, with the pandemic, we all have had to somewhat adjust our lives and somewhat move in this world differently. So, what have things been like for you, and what have you learned the most about yourself?
Wow. I really wish we would have started with Grant on this one. I feel like something that we probably covered on the podcast so far. Just the past 2, 3 years has just been, oh man. Oh man. It's been revealing, I would say. It's probably the easiest way I can go about it. If I haven't shared it on the podcast, I've shared it with you guys personally, definitely. I'm way more introverted than I even knew about myself. And realize, like, I think everybody has a little bit of Zoom fatigue as we're on Zoom right now. So I think the Zoom fatigue probably came in probably last year sometime for a lot of people. But for me now, it's like I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to do gigs from home. But yeah, she's like, all right, jump on another meeting. All right, time to jump on another meeting. All right, time to. So there's a little bit of that. It's like, man, I'm like when I'm live in front of people, I really enjoy being on the microphone, having a good time. But yeah, meetings, meetings that could have been emails specifically is something that has gotten to me a lot over however long. But yeah, I think the introversion is a thing. In terms of my resiliency, that's always something that we definitely discussed that. I know that. Realizing that, hey, look, man, like I am not the things that I thought I was. I am not just an MC. I am not just my job. I know that, you know, in order to continue to push through this horrible pandemic that somehow we're still in. I'm not sure how. We managed to find out things about ourselves that are like, all right, I want to make sure I have a mission for myself. I want to make sure I have things to to continue pushing on. So yeah, introversion and resiliency. Because I knew I was resilient before, but now now I still feel like even though things are not the best, or things haven't been the best in the past, I know that I can make it through anything. I already had that before, but now it's like, come on, man, come on, let's do this.
If the past 2 years in the pandemic didn't happen, where do you think life would be for you?
I will admit this is a real mental health moment right here. I will admit that I have been slowed down. A lot of things have knocked me down over the last couple years, and again, I've always been very resilient, but I've found myself in a place where, oh man, I don't know if I can make it back from this. The clearest one is the fact the reason I live in LA in the first place is because I got a job working in the NBA. That job dissipated once COVID took over. And I haven't gone back. I've applied to no response, and so I just live in Los Angeles now for however much longer. But that was one of those things that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it back from this. The money, the moving, the being away from the family, the not knowing what the world is going to do. So I did, and I do still feel a little bit. Uh, I don't want to say I feel defeated currently, but I feel like I absolutely was defeated. So I don't know. Some people kind of need that to get going. I don't feel like I've made it back to my full capacity yet. Still, so again, it could be a positive thing as like, all right, now I know I have to turn it up. But for the most part, I was like, oh man, this is I don't know if we're ever gonna make it out. But I'm glad we're where we're at now.
And it's so strange how life works,
Yeah,
uh, especially when you say you didn't know if you'd be able to make it back.
yeah,
And I'm thinking of I think Ace Hood has a song called Undefeated, and just having that mindset, you being the hardest working man in showbiz,
yeah.
having that mantra and living by that mantra. And I think that there are so many things that have changed with most people's lives, as you've mentioned, that it feels like, man, how can I get back to where I once was? It's kind of that phenomenon where, where Tiger Woods, for example, they're like, man, when are we going to get the old Tiger back? Well,
That's a good one.
Tiger Woods has changed. His body's different now. Whereas we are human beings in this different world or this different environment. So we've had to adapt and change. So it might seem like we're not at that peak level where we were once before, but we also have to keep in mind that we are in a different environment and the world moves a lot differently as well. And so you being so resilient over the years, I think, has you've been able to adapt to this change to where it's like, oh, you know what? Things aren't going the way I'd like them to go,
Yeah,
but I'll be okay because I'm the hardest working man in showbiz and you can't stop me. And I think you mentioned that in one of our prior episodes where you just
yeah,
have this unbelievable amount of confidence about you that one, everything's going to be okay and you're going to get what you need out of life. So I think that just the beauty of life, it teaches us things that maybe we had always been ignoring. And so when you say, "Hey, I slowed down," would you have anything to add on that, or do you agree with that?
yeah. I think that's what life is about. Life is the greatest teacher. Honestly, it is. The purpose of being here on this planet as a human being is to continue growing and learning. So if you're not learning from either your mistakes or other things that could possibly happen to you, or growing from those things after you've learned from them, then what are you doing? What are you doing here? So yeah, yeah, it's definitely I'm sure it's helped bring a lot of strength out of people. Again, I already had that strength. It was absolutely just the way my brain works where like if I step away from a routine or the everyday going to work, doing this, going I have these events coming up, like it throws me off admittedly. So I felt like I was in what is the word, uh kind of like a limbo. Felt like I was in limbo for 2 very long years, still revving up the engine, like, "I'm ready to get to it, man. At any time, it could open back up." And when it did, it was still a very slow open. So, yeah, I'm happy to be where I'm at, but I know, as that hardest working man in showbiz, I know there's always more, so I'm ready for that too.
Facts. Looking forward to seeing the next few years for you and how everything plays out. Grant, going over to you, your journey over the past 2 or 3 years. What does that look like, and what have you learned about yourself?
Shout out first off to Vince telling his story, man. Like the resilience and everything. Just piggyback off of that, right? So obviously we've all were doing something before COVID happened, and we had a trajectory that we were on. And so when though you see the world shutting down and everything, it's like stop, right? You have to stop. And I think for a lot of people, they had to start questioning, like, oh, what am I gonna do now? For me in particular, I was obviously you guys know my story about Carnival Cruise. So very similar to his MBA. Carnival was like kind of my MBA, right? So I'm about to be a cruise director. And then so it's like, man, I was going to do all these great things in my mind and I had all these plans. And it definitely slowed me down to an extent. But once again, like Vince was talking about, you're grateful in hindsight. And what I mean by that is you don't understand why things happen until over time. The greatest teacher is life, but you can't understand life until you look at it backwards, which is a weird paradox. And that's where people that are older than you, or that's why they say the older are wise because they've been through life and they can reminisce on all the stuff, and then they can give you wisdom. So with that just being said, Grant Jones Entertainment's been around for 2 years. So without the pandemic, I wouldn't have my own company. I wouldn't be able to meet so many different people. And from time and time again, I think it's one of those things where I was talking to my therapist. It's kind of like that Rocky analogy. It's not about how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. So if one thing after another, it's just been telling me or teaching me resilience in terms of Carnival didn't work out. Moved to Minnesota, went up for a job, got fired from that job. That didn't work out. So then at some point I was just like, okay, what can I do to make sure that I am being more, one, accountable myself, but two, making sure that I'm not codependent on someone else. So that's the main thing I've learned over the whole lifespan of, or not lifespan, but the whole 2 years of happening, just being more about myself and just making sure that, okay, with Grant Jones Entertainment, if I fail, that's on me, but I can always work more. I don't have to depend on Carnival. I don't have to depend on another organization to make my bread. So me just learning that, it's mind blowing where you see yourself in the progression. And just, I remember when I first got my little email, Grant Jones Entertainment at gmail.com. And then I set it up and I'm like, man, where's the business? Where's the business? I waited like maybe 6, 7 months. I've been trying to network, and bro, it just takes time. It literally just takes time. And now I'm in a position where you got a submission form for a wedding. You have a submission form for, like, it's all coming in now. So patience is definitely one of the key components when it comes to being an entertainer, just being your own person, your own employee. So just understanding that the COVID allowed everyone to refocus their direction and their energy, and now you're starting to see the fruit of your labor through that patience.
Thinking back on, I think we've talked about it in prior episodes, just how we had a conversation in the coffee house, and this was like was it
Coffee house.
3 or 4 years
That
ago?
was like 4 years ago, man. Yeah.
And we were just at such different phases of our lives, but seeing you from the coffee house to now, and you've got a Minnesota Vikings t-shirt on where you just did some DJing for them. I think it was last week or last night.
Mhm.
Just think about just that span, 3 to 4 years of you and Vince just kind of honing in on your skills and what it is that you wanted for your life. And so, you also added in that piece of patience. And I think that is one of the hardest things to master in this world, where we can get on social media and it seems like, oh, I can create a PayPal account and start making millions tomorrow. Or I can put out a podcast and there's going to be millions of followers in the first week. That is not the case. And there are a lot of get rich quick schemes in this world, making us feel like we are so far behind the eight ball. But really, what we're not seeing is the 5, 10, 15 years of work that many of these individuals had to put in before actually getting to their greatness. And I think that's one of the social media is great, but there's also cons to social media, meaning that I see nothing but influential people successful. So it's like, oh, am I late to the party? How do I microwave this, what I'm doing or what we're doing, so that there are millions of people that can see it, and they can see and hear our messages. And so for the both of you to, and Grant said it so nicely, of just the patience and how we've had to slow down to kind of refocus where it was or where it is that we're going. And the other piece that you said, Grant, is just not being codependent. And I think that is so, so important, because if we think about a regular 9 to 5 job, and I'm not knocking any 9 to 5, but there's so many people that are locked in and chained and shackled to that 9 to 5 to where you can't even make your own decisions because that 9 to 5 is dictating everything that you're doing. And so with the both of you two, y'all have this awesome ability to find opportunities, multiple opportunities to position yourselves where you aren't shackled and locked into one specific thing. So now you can have different income streams to where it's like you have the freedom to, I know Vince, you travel quite a bit, and Grant, you travel as well. It's like you are your own brand. And so by being your own brand, you can make your own choices and decisions, which is a beautiful thing of
Hmm.
business ownership in this country.
Right. And Kendrick, you made a really good point we were talking about yesterday, just real quick, in terms of understanding, right? When I got fired from that job, without getting fired and having that patience, I would have been in other predicaments that I'm in right now, which is, and that's how, because that job was just so time consuming where I didn't have time for anything else. Now I'm doing multiple jobs and now I'm working with one of my best friends, Vince Bracy, in the diversity organization. Shout out right there. Might take that out later, but it's okay. They don't mind. They don't mind. Anyway, and now it's like, wow, had I not got fired from that job, I wouldn't have been able to do all this amazing things now. And the funny part is that job opportunity came back to me. So I work for them again now. So look at God right there, right? God saying, hey, trust me, allow that. Like, I just watched a video. They're like, allow that divorce to happen. Allow that you getting fired from your job because something great is coming from you. You have to go through that mud, that dirt to actually grow. And you're getting planted in the seeds. You might feel like you're getting drugged through the mud, but God's literally about to grow you, as an analogy with the plants and everything. So just got to be focused. And then I think Kendrick yesterday he said, when your mental confidence catches your physical confidence. I would love for you to elaborate on that because that
Yeah.
was bars yesterday. And Vince, you're about to find out what he was talking about.
Oh yeah, that was when Vince, you had to get off the phone call,
Yeah.
and Grant and I think we stayed on for maybe like another 20 minutes, and I was just in my bag the other day. And yeah, when I look at it like this, and Grant, you've mentioned this many times, and I don't want to repeat it just because I like to keep some things that we talk about in private, but it was just centered around confidence. And if you think about imposter syndrome, and there's some people that do have imposter syndrome about things that they do. I've been one of them, but there's this click moment to where your confidence, your mental confidence matches how you show up in a room, matches the physical. And that's when, that's when the game changes. When those two match up, because it's one thing to where you can show up in a room and be confident, but from a mental standpoint, you may not be confident. And vice versa. You may be mentally confident, but show up in a room lacking the confidence, and people can see that. When those two pieces match or when they cross, that's a game changer. And that's what I was hitting on is that we often go through life kind of shackled by, especially us men of color, shackled by what society wants from us and thinks about us. And when we can get past and I think I said it the other day, Grant, of, sometimes I get in my bag and I'm just passionate, but in some spaces that's like, oh no, go back into your space. You're intimidating people right now. And then other spaces are like, okay, yeah, let's go, let's keep on going, like
Right.
when I'm talking to you two. And so when you get to that point where it's just like, I really don't care if I'm intimidating people because of my own passion for a
Mm,
specific thing. And that's when the mental confidence and the physical confidence matches or meets, because I no longer am worried about how other people are reacting to me, because that's their responsibility.
mm-hmm,
That's not my responsibility to alter my own personality to accommodate somebody else's uncomfort. I want to say that one more time. It is not my responsibility to alter my own personality and my own passion to accommodate someone else's uncomfort or discomfort in my space. And for so many years, I think I've gone through life where it's like, hey, don't be overly passionate about what you're talking about because you're not supposed to do that. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm seeing Ric Flair is the first person that's coming to my mind. I don't know why. I guess because I was probably watching WWE when I was younger. Ric Flair is passionate. Nobody says anything about Ric Flair.
Yeah.
There are other people that are passionate. Nobody says anything about them. But it's
Wheeling dealing. Come on. You know?
right, right, right. But it's like, okay, when Allen Iverson is passionate, oh no, 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 get back in your place.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute. He's passionate about what he's doing. And so I'm a little bit on a tangent right now, but my point is when you get so comfortable mentally and you get so confident physically, then you start moving, speaking, and engaging from a different level or different perspective that it just fits, it clicks, everything clicks. And so that's why I like the conversations that I have with you two because it's like we are in the same space of growth, personal development, confidence, wanting to build up each other. It's kind of like the iron sharpens iron mentality to where I have no ego if Vince gets his opportunity. I have no ego if Grant gets his opportunity and vice versa with the two of y'all. It's like we're in this together. So how
Right.
can we individually build up our thing, our brand, our business? And
Mhm.
then the other aspect of that is how do we come together and just make this a powerful business to where we're touching many people out there. And that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday, and it looked like Vince, did you have anything to add? It looked like you were about to say something.
Oh no, I was just excited that, I like you said, stay motivated, talk that talk. That's what it's all about.
For sure, for sure. But I want to tap into just where y'all see yourselves in the next few years because I think that as we keep ourselves accountable and as we continue developing and growing as individuals, I think it's just so important to vocalize what it is we want for ourselves. And I think we've talked about it before is kind of that manifestation of what it is we want for our future. And by putting these words out into the universe has now heard our words and able to align. And whether you're spiritual, you believe in God, you don't believe in God, we are living beings, we're moving energies. And so the things that we speak about have energy. And so I'm just going over to Vince. Where do you see yourself in the next year or two? And what one thing do you want to accomplish?
Well, I'm already a global speaker for the diversity organization, so that's very exciting. Manifesting myself doing shows in other countries. Uh, we're supposed to have an event in London, India, Philippines. Like I'm really excited about at least one of those. I don't know if my
Yeah.
time will permit. Hoping I get to do at least one of those this year. And yeah, helping to grow a brand new organization that we've joined. Anything that I become a part of, I want to see it grow and flourish as well. So for myself personally, obviously I'm coming up on my first year of marriage, so just more peace, prosperity, love.
Congrats, congrats.
Thank you very much. uh all those wonderful things, going into our second year, and many more years after that. uh I've I don't know if I've said it before, but I want to put out some music. It's the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Like I'm manifesting some more producers, A&Rs, public relations people, angel investors. I'm manifesting I'm manifesting whatever I can get to come towards me so I can it'll help facilitate this process a little bit because I know I have, same as hosting, I know I have the talent, but I do need a platform to be able to, showcase my talent. So, uh, and also praying for organization and systems so I can create those platforms for myself as well.
Yes, sir. I love the mentality that you have. And one thing that I'll say is there is no dream too big enough to
Never,
accomplish.
never.
There is no dream out there that is too big enough to accomplish. People think about, you think about Floyd Mayweather
Mm,
growing up in Detroit in boxing, and now look at him. one of maybe the best boxers of all time. LeBron James, same thing. So if you dream it, you can attain it. Because if you weren't able to dream it, then that meant you weren't able to attain it. So that's something to just think about. Going over to Grant, as you look, you know, in the future, the next year, 2 years, where you want to be, what are some of the things that you want to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to just say real quick in terms of just that dream quote you just put, if you can dream it, you can attain it. Now, when you attain it, the one thing that's hard is maintaining it, right? You get to that level of success and you got to stay there because somebody's going to try to knock you off the top. Might be yourself, your ego might get in the way. You never know, right? But for me, next couple of years, just understanding like myself, right? That's one of the main goals, understanding why I do what I do, and then just resonating and looking for opportunities just to grow. And whether that means taking a step back from hosting and producing more, right? I really do love producing, loving how, learning how everything works, seeing how I can shine my light, but not only my light, but also someone else's light. So being a host allows us to present our way and be ourselves. That way we can help other people be themselves when they want to present their special skill set. So definitely like Vince traveling the world. I'm a global speaker as well too. London, India, Philippines. Definitely looking forward to those events manifesting more. On my vision board, I'm literally you guys know my vision board. Got Wayne Brady on there. Literally has India on there, has Spain, and look at us. We're global speakers. So from the time of just 2020 when I started doing vision boards a little bit, maybe before that, I can see a lot of things manifesting now, and that's how long it took. Right? Didn't know how it was possible, didn't know when it was going to happen, but just having that faith and just seeing that. So the next couple of years should be fun, and just really starting to understand who I am because I'm stepping into that leadership role. A lot of my jobs, so you definitely need to understand who you are, how you function. That way, when people ask you questions, there's no hesitation, and you can lead by example. So
Leading by example, man, and especially in our community, having the examples is so important that so we can actually see, depending, we're all kind of in different industries. Y'all are in the industry of entertainment, me in the mental health space, marriage and family therapy, but we have so many different experiences that we can actually put out an example of what it means to be a male of color and what is possible for to be, as far as getting success or attaining success as a male of color is so important. So I'm definitely looking forward to the two of y'all and the growth that you have over the next year or 2 years. Some of my goals that I have this time next year, I'll finally be graduating graduate school in marriage and family therapy. I think some of y'all that follow the podcast and the social media of my social media um, are aware that I came back to school after being out of academia for almost 11 years. And so you could imagine being out of it for so long and then coming back. And there were just so many different learning curves that I had to relearn and pick up on. So it has been difficult from that standpoint, but the confidence is continuing to grow each day, each week, each month. And so some of my goals, graduation, getting my license as a marriage and family therapist, growing the podcast and having more unique guests on here that have the ability to talk about their own experiences within mental health and just their own personal development in a wide range of different industries, because I think it's important to have variety. And, my long term goal is to open up my own private practice in marriage and family therapy. And so there are a lot of goals that I do have other than those that I just listed. But the thing is having community that supports the things that you are doing. If you are around people that are envious of the goals that you're trying to attain, those people need to be plucked out of your circle, because though that negative energy will have a dramatic effect on your goals. So being aware of who's in our circle, I'm so appreciative that I've been able to meet and learn about Vince and us, bouncing ideas off of one another because we're in this together. Same with you, Grant, just bouncing ideas off of one another and being supportive, but more importantly, just being brothers. And I think it's so easy to get into, hey, what are you doing next? Hey, what are you doing next? Let's go, let's go. Forgetting like we're brothers. Like we're literally not from the same mother, but we are brothers in this, and this is the community. Dr. E as well. We are in this together as young Black men here in America, trying to put out not only positive vibes and positive examples, but trying to manifest success for ourselves so we can give back to our community. So, with that being said, again, this was just kind of off the cuff type of podcast episode, and wanted to put this out again because it's been a year since these podcast episodes have been coming out. So, want to give a shout out and a special thanks to all of the viewers that have gone along with us on this journey. Podcasting is not easy. There's a lot of behind the scenes things like editing that go into making this happen. And so we are definitely appreciative of those who have continually supported what it is that we're trying to do. A major shout out to Vince, Grant, and Dr. E for coming along on this journey of this podcast. I know Grant, we had did a podcast, I think, at the beginning of the pandemic, but it wasn't time for us to continue, evolving these episodes. It was just something we were testing out. So again, I just thank all of y'all for continuing to have faith and confidence in Coats and Conversation, and also supporting the cause of Coats and Conversation. Again, if y'all have not been out to listen to podcast episode number 13, take y'all's behinds out there and listen to that podcast. It is one that you'll definitely want to listen to. With that being said, Vince, any last thoughts?
Yeah, really appreciate the points that you made. Just to tag on to that, OQP is what our friend Les Brown says. Only quality people is who you should have around you. Yeah, grateful to be back. Shout out to you too, Kendrick. Come on, the coats in the conversation. Come on, we need that.
Hey
Right?
now, hey now.
Thank you for the platform and opportunity as always. Everybody that's been listening this whole time, please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or you're going through any particular struggles. I did want to tell you, check me out at Vince Bracy on all social medias, mainly Instagram. But yeah, vincebracy.com as well if you need to book me for any events or because you want to get a discount on my brand new book, Being the Life of the Party, and get yourself some self confidence tips. Right? Check me out, vincebracy.com. Thank you, Kendrick.
I appreciate you, Vince. Grant, any final thoughts?
Nah, I mean, pretty much summed it up. Once again, grateful to be with my brothers again. And another Les Brown quote, I believe he said, "You don't have to be great to get started, but you do have to start to be great." So, definitely looking at that where, like you were talking about earlier, Kendrick, just going through the process of making a podcast. It's really nice to see you, brother, and see all the growth. We were just talking about how we see each other and we're on a different frequency, but it's a good frequency, and just seeing the growth with everyone. So you guys can check me out at grantjonesentertainment.com and also on Instagram at GJ Entertainer. And bless up. Thankful for being on another episode of Coats and Conversations. Happy 1 year anniversary.
I appreciate you, Grant. And for those that are not following me, you can find me on all social media platforms at Kendrick Coats. If you are not following Coats and Conversation on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple, do us a favor, show us some love, show us some support, go out and follow. If there are any episodes in the past that you enjoyed and you'd like us to talk further about, be sure to let us know, drop us a DM. Um, with that being said, again, we appreciate y'all. We appreciate the support. Be on the lookout for following episodes after this.